Hello. Today is episode 28, and I'm so happy to be with you here today, taking a deep breath, settling into what wants to unfold today. This is a continuation of a class that we had. Let me see if I can even get the date. It would have been it was a class with Dove Fishman, and it would have been the 1st of March. So you can see that on the other playlist. But it's a brilliant class that Dove offered. And I'll give you the context in which I want to continue. I'm looking at my notes from his class, and he talked about make no agreements. And think of it, when you make an agreement with someone, it's about the future, it's in time, it's probably from the ego, and it's probably a special relationship, which means it's conditional and it's going to end in anger and disappointment. Maybe not right now, but at some point. So that's really, really clear and very, very, very helpful for people. I'm looking at these notes. That's what you're hearing. And ultimately, when we have that disappointment from the ego and the special relationship, we're now beginning our work. We're now beginning our awakening. We're now beginning the potential doorway to freedom, because while we're in the illusion that we're getting what we're lacking, we're not aware that we're in lack. Does that make sense? It's really important to know that if we're believing we're empty, not good enough, somehow missing and defective the worth of God, then we're just playing games, covering up. In a way, that's the kind of spiritual bypass, if you will. But it's not exactly what's meant by spiritual bypass. Spiritual bypass is more actually when you use the lesson of the Course in Miracles to feel better in your meditation, but you're not really taking it in. That's a bypass. That's what I consider spiritual bypass. It's like a Band-Aid that doesn't heal anything, but it doesn't hurt because it's not being exposed to the air. So it's a superficial remedy. I wouldn't entirely put it down. I would say that it helped me out for 20 or 30 years. I would say it gave me hope. Well, you say hope, that's about the future. That's not the real deal. And you know what? You're right. It's not. But if you're feeling like you are worth less, if you are feeling not good enough, if you are suffering like I was, if you were compromised or struggling, then hope is a good thing. Hope is what keeps somebody from committing suicide, from being out of possibility. So, yes, it can become a barrier when people keep on seeking and saying, I'm not there yet, and they're missing what's available in plain sight, but underneath where we're seeking. Yes, they're missing the big deal, the the causeless joy, the possibility of now and freedom and relaxation. So at the end of our class, I read these things from non-duality. And I'm going to bring up the course in a moment because it says the same thing. But this is a book by Rhonda Byrne called The Greatest Secret. And you might remember that she's the person who made famous, I think it was in 2006, that movie and that book that took over a lot of New Age spirituality that really promoted manifestation and the power of the mind. And people just loved it because it fed the ego. You could get more, you could do everything, you could have everything. And then this book talks about how it wasn't the whole truth. And I think the importance of The Secret is the power of the mind, but it's not the power of the person. The message is the power comes from awareness, from God, from the universe, from life. It does not come from you as a separate person. And I use the word person instead of ego because ego has gotten so overlaid as a bad thing, as though it even exists. If you've been a Course in Miracles student as long as it's not a compliment to say you're coming from ego. It's not a pat on the back. Look how well you're doing. There is no you. That is not good news. We've talked about that before, but it is good news when you take in, it's not that you're nothing. It's that you're everything. What if that were true? All right, getting back to what I read in the class. It's on page 42. I think it's 42. No, it's page 45. Chapter 2. A single belief has prevented us from making the greatest discovery, the belief that we are our body and our mind. Course says the same thing. You're not your body. Course says that too. You're free. You're still as God created you. That's what the Course says. She says, you're not your body. Your body is a vehicle you use to experience the world. Your body isn't conscious. Leaving your body creates the biggest fear of humanity, the fear of death. What you actually are never dies. Wow, what good news that is. You're not your mind. Mind is only thoughts. So Course in Miracles speaks of small mind and big mind, and non-duality does as well. So mind is the one being with a capital M, if you would envision it that way. And then small m might be called your small self, your thinking mind. If there are no thoughts, then there is no mind. You're not a thought, a sensation, or a feeling, because if you were, when they end, you would too. Your body and mind together make up what we call a person, the imagined self. A person is what we imagine ourselves to be. Same thing as the ego. A person is what you experience. It's not what you are. We can never have true, lasting happiness while we hold on to the belief that we're a person. You are experiencing a body, experiencing a mind, and having the experience of being a person. But they are not you. Ooh, yay! They are not us. So let's turn to lesson 95. I am one self, united with my Creator. Today was idea accurately describes you as God created you. You are one within yourself and one with Him. Yours is the unity of all creation. Your perfect unity makes change in you impossible. You do not accept this and you fail to realize it must be so only because you believe you have changed yourself already. So what that means to me is that any mistakes, which is what I was talking about in class, I was talking about assumed mistakes. Assumed mistakes to me means I've lost my mind. I've forgotten that I'm not a self. I'm not a personal self. I've forgotten for that moment. I got engaged in the world. Now, I really feel like one of my missions is to talk about the transition between forgetting and remembering. And Dove was suggesting that if I just go to lesson 1 and remember that I can't think at all, of course, then I will realize that there are no mistakes and it's laughable. And he's 100% right. But there's a but here for me, because when I'm in the oneness and I'm in the flow and I don't even jump into a paragraph about a perceived mistake. So in the world, let's say I'm offering a big class. It's not my little class where I can send out, like little meaning small number, and I can send out an email and everybody will get it. And, you know, the mistake will be rectified if a time was printed incorrectly. But this is more people, and I actually don't have their emails. So the admin person who wrote up the sign-up page printed the wrong times. In the world that I'm participating in, that would be called an error. Nobody is to blame. It's not a problem. I can have the understanding that all is well, that it's perfect. And yet there is an energy that wants to fix this, to short circuit all the people coming at the wrong time and being flustered. And there's an interaction. When the Course says we need do nothing, it doesn't mean we don't interact in the world and try and fix this perceived error. So there are two levels. There's the level of the world and the level of remembering. And the way Rupert Spira describes non-duality in Advaita terms, there are two ways to quickly wake up when we're caught from the residual of living as a separate personal self. There are two ways to wake up again. One is to bring so much love in that we welcome whatever it is. So I had an example in the class prior to March 1st, where I did an example about a headache. And what that looks like is not just I say, oh, I accept the headache. Meantime, tensing and thinking of how can I get rid of it? What pill can I take? Blah, blah, blah. No, if I sit back and say, oh, headache, I've never thought of you as my beloved before. Dear sweet headache, I'm making room for you. You might always be here, and I welcome you as my friend. This is new. This is cutting edge, and I am cutting edge because I am awake, and I can awaken with my headache. You might always be here. Maybe you have body pain somewhere else. Maybe you have annoyances that come up. Maybe you have a husband or a child or a wife or a partner that annoys you, or you wish you had one. Whatever you have, if it's a disturbing thought that you don't have enough money, or you have any other kind of irritation, one of the non-dual ways to not get rid of it, but to stay in freedom, is to welcome it. So now I'm imagining teaching, cooking, eating. Oh, eating with a headache, that's a stretch. Let me spend some more time with that. I'm used to not eating if I have a headache. Wow. Let me suck. Let me chew. Oh, I see. If you're my beloved inside my head, I can chew with you. I can sleep with you. I could have sex with you. Not with you, but along with you there. That's pretty funny. There's nothing that would preclude my steadiness, my all rightness. Nothing, no thought, no sensation, no perception. I can make room for whatever you are. That's one non-dual way to be with whatever is that's disturbing. The other is the one that I exemplified at the end of the class in Tuesdays with Dove. Join us for perfect happiness now. Is the one I did on March 1st at the end of the class, where I brought in a different perspective. Instead of seeing from inside my head, from inside my headache, from inside my personal self, which is pretty close to a headache, I went to awareness. What is aware of my suffering? What is aware of the ego's ways of lack and thoughts of need and want and crave and missing? That can't be what Rhonda Byrne was saying. That can't be the thought, because awareness stays there even when the thought goes away. And it can't be what I am, because I'm still here long after the thought is gone. Awareness is the same word for consciousness, is the same word for God. It's the all. It's another word for life. So let's just go to the stars and the moon and the sky and the earth and the being that is me, that is the I am, the amness before the name I, the being that's always been there from birth until 74. It's always been there. So it can't be a particular state. It can't be a particular feeling. It's more than neutrality. It's awareness. But it has no opinions. It's not doing well. It's not doing badly. Everyone belongs. But it sees the personal movie, the Rosalind movie, the Dove movie, the Lynn movie. But it's not the I of the I am. And it's not the one self that's united with my Creator. Lesson 95. Let's see what lesson 95 suggests for us. First, it tells us you see yourself as a ridiculous parody on God's creation, weak, vicious, ugly, sinful, miserable, and beset with pain. That is so the ego or the personal self. Today it says we will attempt to be aware of only what we can hear and see that makes perfect sense. We will direct our exercise toward reaching your one self, which is united with its Creator. In patience and in hope, we try again today. Well, in the direct experience, we don't have to hope because we can experience it now. Did you go there with me when I went to that place that I now am one, when I'm one with the stars and the moon and the earth and the sky, and I remember that perceived apparent mistake that was no mistake. It feels distant. Go with me, if you will. Think of the thing that upset you. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your life or your partner? Whatever it is that you think of, your headache or your body sensation. When we're out with awareness, we can hardly remember it. And that's the direct experience. That is what we are, not what we believe we are. That separate self, that ridiculous parody on God's creation. In lesson 95, it suggests, let's see, it suggests that it's difficult to allow the mind not to wander. And so the suggestion is to let all errors go by recognizing them for what they are. They are attempts to keep you unaware. You are already, I added already, one self, united with your creator at one, every aspect of creation, and limitless in power and peace. And it says, begin the practice period with this assurance. Offer to your, I'm adding small mind, with all certainty that you can offer. Then close your eyes and slowly repeat, I am oneself. So again, if you are just using the words in A Course in Miracles, lesson 1 will take care of it. Lesson 95, or most of the lessons, will take care of them, of whatever your issue is, if you actually knew what the words meant. Knowledge instead of belief, knowledge instead of words. Words just tacked on give momentary relief and no change. And we're all about transformation here. We want the whole deal. I came up with this idea yesterday. I was teaching an Enneagram class to new people, to thought leaders. That's what they're called, their academy, thought leaders, Thought Leader Academy. They're writers who've already written several books, and many of them are very, very accomplished. And it's common to believe in unworthiness and the ego and so on. So I said, if you, for just a moment, imagined you were out of money and out of resources, and your bills were coming paid, what if you could have $20,000 by learning about your own personality? And that's the money on interest of the $1 million that you could receive if you took the whole awakening and learned the whole system. Because the Enneagram system takes you to the same place as A Course in Miracles and non-duality. We are not separate selves. We are not a personality. We are one life with no separation from our Creator. So would you wait and take the whole $1 million? Or would you take the small Band-Aid? Now, $20,000 wouldn't be a Band-Aid. Many people learn just their own Enneagram and don't learn the whole system. But they're shortchanging themselves from freedom and from the big money, metaphorically. And the same is by just sticking with the belief in an ego and a separate self. So I'm encouraging you today to use the Course, to use non-duality, whatever your method, and open up to who and what you really are. Everything that God is. Thank you, my friend, for being here with me today. Bye-bye.